Good evening and welcome to the March 2nd, 2026 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Miriam Zahn and I'm the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this special meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken using the video and audio, so we need all speakers to utilize one of the microphones in the room. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Ms. Sands, please call the roll of the members.
Vice Chair Zahn.
Here.
Mr. Yuko.
Here.
Mr. Millay is excused. Mr. Mullen.
Here.
Mr. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Curran.
Here.
Ms. Chifo is excused. Mr. Feskins is excused. Mr. Chanchuli.
Here.
Mr. Bell.
Here.
Chairman Liketz is excused. You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. Mr. Ball advises the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with the applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Jessica Sands is a city employee and is acting as the zoning board secretary. Our board secretary works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. The board secretary also does not vote on the applications. Also present are our experts who are hired annually by the board to provide input. Tonight we have Marie Raffay from Collier's Engineering. Also present is Joe Burgess from Burgess Associates, our board planner. These experts are seated at the table to the right of the board, the public's left. They do not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Before we enter into executive session to vote on the application, you'll be advised on how many votes are required. In the case of tonight's application by Beacon Unitarian Church, we have heard from the applicants and their attorney, as well as the applicant's expert witnesses to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board experts, followed by board members, have asked questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses, and this process resumes tonight as we continue the hearing. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Please be careful as to how you phrase your questions. They should not be preceded with a statement about the case, but should be a direct question to the witness. Also, before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in our discussion. We will begin tonight with the applicant's attorney, Mr. Maynor, who will, I believe, cross-examine the objector's planner.
That's correct.
Yes.
And before we get started, just noting for the record that Mr. Bell is recused and has stepped down from the dais.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Roger Maynor, Lindaberry, McCormick, Estabrook, and Cooper, New Providence. I just have a few questions for this witness, and very briefly. Mr. Steck, you're still under oath, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay,
Yes.
great, thank you. You testified, mentioned several times in your testimony, I believe, that the design of this building was not mandated or required by the Unitarian faith, is that correct?
Yes, I think I said I know of no principle associated with the Unitarian faith that dictated the design.
Okay. Do you believe that was the applicant's testimony or the testimony of its architect?
I don't believe it was the testimony, I just believe that it's a fact.
Okay. If I refreshed you, have you watched all of the testimony in this case?
There are some transcripts that I read. I haven't watched all the testimony.
Okay. You haven't listened to or read all of the testimony in this case?
I may have, I don't recall. I do recall the testimony of the architect.
Okay. If I refreshed your recollection, or maybe provided it if you didn't read this portion, but the testimony was that the design was informed by, inspired by, meant to be a reflection of the faith, but not mandated. Would that surprise you?
No.
Okay, thanks. Do you have a degree in architecture, or are you a licensed architect?
No.
Have you ever designed a building?
No.
Okay. I want to refer you to another one of your statements. You said you had a concern because there was no testimony as to potential growth of this congregation. Is that correct?
I don't recall that phrasing that I used, but in my experience representing houses of worship, I don't think I've ever heard a house of worship say that they're not going to grow anymore. Every house of worship, in my opinion, likes to accommodate additional parishioners.
Well, if I told you that today I rewatched Reverend Tanner's testimony, and that basically at minutes 42 to 44 of that testimony, she went into great lengths about the lack of growth not only in their congregation, but in this faith as a whole, going back to 40 years of records as to the size of this congregation. Did you listen to or read that portion of her testimony?
I don't recall that specifically, but I don't doubt that that's what she said.
Okay. And then I have one last question for you. I'm going to refer you to your exhibit. I think it's 01, which is the handout that you brought when you testified.
Yes.
Okay. And you had testimony here. You have on page 1, you have an aerial photograph, which, is that from Google Maps or similar?
Let me find it.
This is it right here. This will help you.
That's from Google Earth Pro, yes.
Okay, and that was the basis of your testimony, that you thought that the solar panels would be shielded by trees and therefore not function properly. Is that correct?
The basis for my testimony was being at the site, looking at the trees that are adjacent to the easterly property line, and the fact that the shadow pattern generally is cast toward a northerly direction, and as well as my own aerial photographs from a drone.
So your own aerial photographs and this picture are existing conditions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, they don't reflect the as-built conditions after tree removal, replanting, and they do not reflect what's ultimately proposed to be there. Is that correct?
Well, you can't remove trees that are on the adjacent property, and those are the ones that, in my opinion, are going to shield the solar panels.
Okay. So do you disagree with the testimony of the applicant's engineer who testified at length about the studies they did as to these solar panels, their orientation as to the sun and the ability to function with the proposed landscaping?
I don't recall any shadow pattern exhibit that was entered into the...
I'm talking about, I didn't ask you that. I'm asking about his testimony, but maybe you didn't read that either.
Well, the answer is, in my judgment, because the trees along the property line and on the adjacent property cannot be removed by the applicant, And because they're largely deciduous trees, when the leaves are on the trees, they're going to cast a shadow during certain times of the day on the solar panels and diminish their effectiveness.
Have you ever designed a solar array?
No.
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Just a couple redirects based on the testimony, the opposition questions. Mr. Steck, for this application, you've either reviewed transcripts, meeting minutes, and/or reviewed video of the hearings, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and when Mr. Maynard asked you about the architect's testimony that the design was quote-unquote inspired by the faith, do you recall in your review of the evidence, testimony, exhibits of any substantiation of that testimony by way of treatises, documentation as to how a Unitarian church should be designed based on faith?
I don't recall any authoritative evidence that there are certain mandatory principles, and as part of my research, I looked at other similar facilities around New Jersey by, searching them on Google and looking at aerial photographs, and there was no consistency, in my opinion, of the architecture.
And with regard to the Reverend's testimony that Mr. Maynard has referenced as to a lack of growth, expected lack of growth of the congregation in the future, you have seen congregations that have been built anew that have resulted in an increase in membership and/or attendance because of the newness of the facility.
Sometimes there is a facility that's new that attracts people. Sometimes other facilities close down and congregations assemble themselves together. So the point is that the applicant is requesting a certain number of seats, and I'm assuming that's the nature of the request that they're seeking an approval. I'm not assuming that those seats will be inadequate in the future. I'm simply responding to the nature of the application that's proposed.
Thank you. And with regard to Mr. Maynard's question to you about the engineer's testimony related to the effectiveness of the solar panels, do you recall seeing any documented evidence that substantiated any determination as to effectiveness of those panels?
There was no documentation that I saw. I know that there are solar panels on the roof. My comment was on the solar panels that are over parking spaces that intrude into the buffers. And those are the ones that are closer to the tree line, in my opinion, will be more adversely affected by shade. And I don't recall any kind of, I'll call it, engineering study that indicated the length of time the solar panels will be exposed to direct sunlight.
Okay. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, given that we've had some other questioning today, I'm wondering if our board experts have any other follow-up questions.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Burgess?
I just have one or two. Peter, in your analysis of that tree line that you just spoke of, how far off the property line are those trees, and what's the height of those trees?
I would say that, well, first of all, there are trees that are right at the property line, and when a property line cuts through a tree, my understanding is that the applicant can't remove that tree because it's partly on the adjacent property. Those trees are, I'm guessing, could be 50 feet tall. And there's one evergreen, but most of them are deciduous.
And did you do a study to determine how many solar panels out of the total array would actually be impacted by the shading that you're referring to?
My comments were for the solar panels that were in separate structures over the parking areas, so primarily the row along the east side of the property.
Consisting of how many, what percentage of the total array?
I would guess that, well, all of the panels that are close to the eastern property line, which is maybe a third of the panels. Now, let me back up. I'm not criticizing the panels on the roof, because those are toward the center of the property. They're up higher, so they're not going to be as adversely affected. But the panels that intrude on the buffer area, and maybe that is a third of the whole supply of panels, in my opinion, will be diminished in their effectiveness because of the trees.
When you say diminished, do you mean by, could you quantify that 20%,
No,
50%?
no, 'cause no one, it's not my job. The applicant is saying that that's an inherently beneficial use, but part of the Ch test is to determine what the magnitude of the public benefit is. They will get some electricity out of it, even from indirect sunlight, but the answer is they're not as productive as they could be, and that has to be weighed about the fact that they essentially operate as structures, like a roof with columns. So they essentially occupy technically as a building that intrudes in the buffer area. And they're outright prohibited in this R15 zone.
Oh, thank you.
I know the board has also had an opportunity to ask questions, but just making sure, does anybody have any follow-up questions before we open it up to the public?
I have one. Mr. Seck, it's great to see you again. I watched the hearing. I wasn't physically present at the last hearing, but I watched the video over the weekend. And I wanted to do some follow-up on the parking on the street, especially across the street from the church, regarding the lack of the crosswalk. There was an exchange at the hearing about the problems. It's a county road, and the city can't just put a crosswalk there even if it wanted to. Are there any reasonable conditions you could envision that this board could impose on parking that would alleviate that concern or mitigate that concern to some extent?
Well, first of all, the location of crosswalks or maybe traffic lights is a county issue. You don't have control over that because that's a county road. I can't think of conditions that are in the control of the applicant that would mitigate that. As you know, there are no sidewalks across the street. To legally cross the street, you have to go about 1,000 feet, and then there is, I think, a flashing light or a button and a crosswalk, and there's no sidewalk there, and then you got to go 1,000 feet back to the subject property. No one's going to do that. They're going to cross mid-block and maybe, at a block intersection, but it is, in my opinion, inviting hazardous conditions, because it is acknowledged by the applicant that there is not enough parking on the site. So, the condition, which is not going to be acceptable, is that you should have the code amount of parking, one spot for 3 seats on the property. That was the intent of the code. And the fact that the conditions that are in front of the property tell me that this is creating a hazardous situation. And in fact, the testimony of the traffic engineer says that the actual demand for parking is going to be functionally greater than what the ordinance requires.
And this may be a minor distinction. I believe your testimony actually was 950 feet. And I didn't go back and look at my notes, but I actually looked at my notes. I had written down some earlier testimony that was 750 feet.
Elizabeth Dolan said 750. I don't know where that came from because I scaled it twice, and it's 1,000 feet to, I guess, Pine Grove is where the marked crosswalk is.
Well, there's another crosswalk in the opposite direction, and I'm not sure which one she was referring
I
to.
think that's further, in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Would using, I don't know, a valet service perhaps alleviate some of those hazards?
Well, where's the valet? The valet is not going to illegally cross, cross mid-block. So it's dependent upon who do you want to put in danger. If a valet what you're suggesting is someone's going to drive onto the site, and then they're going to get out of their car, and then someone's going to move that car somewhere off-site. I don't think that eliminates the hazardous situation. It transfers it to maybe another individual that might get hit.
It reduces it.
How many valets are you gonna have? You got 10 cars showing up, then you got people queuing and.
I mean, you have another person there, and they may, be a professional valet, but the answer is they're going to be driving a car that they're not familiar with.
Vice Chair, just one, we're talking about parking. I think one thing we all left out, and none of the traffic engineers mentioned this, and maybe they did, but I missed it, is, it gets darker in the fall and winter. So you'll be, you could be theoretically crossing or having a function at the building at night, and then you'll have people crossing the street in the dark. And has anybody studied the light in that area for those type of nighttime activities?
Again, it's the burden of the applicant. I have not
Correct,
studied the
yes,
light, but
no.
you're right. At wintertime, at 4:30, it gets dark.
I just want to make a statement.
Could we just leave it to questions right now, please?
I wanted to confirm what he's saying about the danger of the parking.
That's really better for deliberations, I think.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions from the board? No? Okay, at this time, we will open up to questions from the public. No questions? Okay. So, are we going to move on to closing arguments? Public, oh yeah, public comments. Sorry. So we're going to move on to public comment. This is the time when you can share your opinion on.
Before we do, Mr. Simon, I assume you have no other witnesses.
Well,
Professional
sort
witnesses.
of, I do not have any more professional witnesses. However, I do have a number of clients who I've identified, way earlier in this proceeding, who do wish to make statements. And in my experience, boards do it in one of two ways. Either they handle it as part of the public comment where people just get up in front of the microphone and just identify who they are and their address, and they make their statement. I've had other cases where the board requires that for clients of mine that I formally have them come up, they get sworn in. I ask them where, and I do a 3-second Q&A, and then they give their statement.
We will not require anything formal. They will be sworn. If you could just confirm and identify those that are your clients when they come up to testify as part of the public comment, that's all we'll require.
That's perfect. And I would just ask, as I'm standing with the microphone right now, that if members of my client group come up and make statements, provide any testimony, that they, after identifying themselves by name and address, to identify whether or not they're a client of mine.
Thank you.
Great. So is there anyone who would like to comment? Please.
All right, I will have to swear anyone who's making a comment in before you make a comment, so if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Vernon Williams, Williams.
Thank you. And address, please.
Fountain Baptist Church, 116 Glenside Avenue.
Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Vernon Williams, and I am the assistant pastor at the Fountain Baptist Church, the oldest African-American church in Summit. As a fellow faith leader in this community, I understand what it means for a congregation to grow and for its physical space to no longer meet its needs. That experience is not new to Summit. In fact, our church relocated from this very space that you are in at this moment to Glenside Avenue so we could better serve our members and continue our ministry. Now, Beacon Unitarian Universalist congregation finds itself in a similar position, seeking to relocate from Waldron Avenue to Springfield Avenue. Its existing property limits its ability to gather fully and carry out its important work. Seeking a new home is not unusual. It is part of the natural evolution of faith communities striving to serve responsibly and effectively. Beacon has been a part of this community for more than a century and has always been a good neighbor. Its commitment to love, dignity, justice, and purpose is evident in its work. Supporting Beacon's move to 695 Springfield Avenue is not endorsing something unprecedented. It is recognizing that faith communities must be allowed to adapt in order to continue serving our city. In a time when unity, justice, and service are more important than ever, I urge you to approve this application so this vital institution can continue building and bridges and enriching our city. Thank you for your service.
All right, if you could
Kim
raise your right
Leonard.
hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Kim Leonard, Leonard, 81 Beekman Road.
Thank you.
So I'd like to just make a few comments as a neighbor of this property. And I am one of Rob's clients, so I just wanted to mention that also. This application clearly does not meet the psycho balancing test because of the substantial detriment to the safety of the neighborhood caused by inadequate parking and no buffers for neighboring properties. In addition to other shortcomings, using Springfield Avenue in that area for parking is not adequate given the lack of sidewalks, crosswalks, and the width of the shoulder in sections. I question whether all of their parking needs can be met with the shoulder narrowing at the end of the road. So we already have a dangerous situation with Wilson School pickup and drop-off in our neighborhood. We were told at the time when that school opened that a traffic study was done and we would have no backup. Within a week, we had such dangerous conditions on Beekman Road that we have temporary no parking signs in front of our homes 10 months out of the year for the past 17 years. And they are still, even with people not allowed to park on the street, they're still playing cat and mouse. There's still arguments. I still have people ringing my doorbell in front of my home all the time. So we have temporary no parking signs now in front of the church at the corner of New England Avenue and Springfield Avenue because that has created a dangerous situation. There's no parking there. I could go on, but it's a big problem. And if you put there's no way to regulate if this becomes a problem with parking. You can't just put up no parking signs. The congregants would have nowhere to park. So you have to get this right this time with this parking. It has to be right. Number two, the need for so many variances was completely preventable if the applicant had presented a smaller footprint and adequate on-site parking. The applicant purchased the property knowing the lot was undersized for their purposes. The applicant's representative stated that they had thought that underground parking, but it was too expensive, approximately $1 million to $1.5 million. Well, given the scope of the project, that seems pretty inexpensive for a one-time investment. There was also a statement that there's no physical reason underground parking cannot be built. There is a resolution to the parking. It just needs to be paid for. By including underground parking, the applicant will also create a much safer environment for the silver tsunami of aging of the congregation, and that is per the applicant's prior application in 2020. They gave statement that there's a silver tsunami, that the congregation is aging. It would also prevent any potential backup onto Springfield Avenue during drop-off and pickup, which is what we have now at Wilson School. Number three, the applicant's lawyer states on his website in an article he wrote that nonprofits and other community service organizations can expand and relocate their facilities irrespective of the prohibition of local zoning laws. And that's a direct quote. This obviously was the tack the applicant took in designing this structure. The architect and others stated they did not look at zoning, but rather what every stakeholder desired. This plan represents wants and not needs of this congregation. And if we talk about inherently beneficial, this congregation is made up of 80% of people from out of Summit and about 20% from Summit. So virtually everyone is going to be driving to this location. Then the benefits are mainly for others outside of Summit. Number 4, since Beacon is a sanctuary congregation, I would implore the board to require a security guard or well-trained representative from the congregation to stay overnight in the building whenever they have housed any undocumented or documented immigrants. I would also implore that no homeless be sheltered, fed, or showered on premises, given how close to a primary center and in the middle of a residential zone this property is. And the congregation can be shut down or required to move if it breaks this condition. Multiple decisions were made by the applicant along the planning process that created the situation where they are right now. They have a plan that is overbuilt for the lots and it's overbuilt for their needs. If different decisions were made at each point in planning, the congregation could be worshiping in a home that is sized to its needs and provides safe traffic and parking for congregants and neighbors alike. I urge the board to deny this application in its current form. Thank you.
Francie,
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Francie Cho, C-H-O, 27 Beekman Terrace, Summit.
Thank you.
I support the proposed plans for the Beacon Church. Our family's lived on Beekman Terrace for 20 years, and we've been in Summit since 2000. We regularly walk in Wilson Park and the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed plans are the most environmentally friendly I've seen for Summit. The landscape plan in particular will make the property much more beautiful, as well as providing a haven for pollinators and birds while maintaining and enhancing the shade tree canopy. All of the plants are natives, and the inclusion of a green roof, solar panels, efficient lighting with motion activation and timers, permeable paving, and a meadow will provide a huge benefit to the environment. While 29 trees will be removed, the town arborist has noted that the property has been neglected and most of the trees are not healthy. Over 100 trees will be planted, including 29 native shade trees, plus over 300 native shrubs and thousands of perennials. This will dramatically improve the property from a drainage perspective, and the grounds will be among the most beautiful and environmentally friendly in all of Summit. Furthermore, the property is designed to be completely green, producing its own power from solar panels, and should be commended. It makes no sense that there would be objections to freestanding solar panels in a parking lot that will barely be seen. Instead, we should be applauding the congregation for taking active measures to combat the climate crisis, and I do. Well done. The property is surrounded on 3 sides by town land, largely wooded lots, including the recreational part of Wilson Park at the rear. Since the proposed structure is tucked in the middle, it's largely visible only from Springfield Avenue, a busy county road with designated parking along both sides. Clearly, this is an ideal location for a house of worship and will have no impact on the neighborhood feel, as the immediately surrounding neighborhood already embraces a school, playground, sports field, paddle courts, large blacktop parking lot, etc. The houses on Oakley, Hillview Terrace, Beekman Terrace, Beekman Road, etc. will not be negatively impacted whatsoever. While the number of parking spaces is fewer than required, they are plentiful and will be more than adequate for weekday use. Again, the neighborhood would have zero impact as the parking lot is accessed from Springfield Avenue. On Sundays or other days when there may be more visitors for a special event, such as a funeral or chamber concert, parking along Springfield Avenue would be available. And I'd like to point out the number of cars coming in for a church service. This, for a house of worship, is very different from the nursery school and kindergarten. The kindergarten, almost every child is driven. I think there's 120 kids there. So 120 cars are coming every day, twice a day. So yes, I agree, we do back up. For a church service, most people are carpooling. There's probably 2 people per car, if not more. and I believe they're having far fewer congregants, so I would not expect more than 50 to 60 cars. It's a whole different situation. There's no reason to talk about backing up in the neighborhood, and no one's going to be driving through the neighborhood anyway. Furthermore, I don't know of any houses of worship in town with adequate parking for their congregations. But since most houses of worship meet on weekends, there is no issue using street or municipal parking. For instance, my own church, Central Presbyterian on Maple Street, has only 56 parking spots, whereas the 150 will be required based on the sanctuary seating capacity of 450. While the neighborhood currently has extensive traffic on weekdays associated with the school drop-off and pickup, as I said, the traffic associated with the proposed sanctuary will be negligible in comparison. And while the school traffic is a nuisance, it's simply a result of having excellent schools in our city. One of the charms of Summit is that we have schools and churches and parks and commercial properties embedded in our neighborhoods, making for a walkable, healthy city with a real sense of community. I can't think of a better addition to the neighborhood or better fit for 695 Springfield Avenue than the generous, loving, vibrant congregation that is Beacon. A house of worship like Beacon would be an asset to any community. I've attended their concert series in the past and count friends among the congregation. I embrace and welcome Beacon to our neighborhood. Thank you.
I come with visuals, so this may take just a moment for me to plug in. Because so much of this talk.
Hang on, before you keep going, I'll swear you in while you're getting
Oh,
set
I'm
up. If
sorry.
you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm
Right hand.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Thomas Maney, excuse me, and I live at 30,
Can
my last name is
spell your-
M-A-N-E-Y.
Thank you.
Excuse me. And I live at 30 Oakley Avenue here in Summit.
Thank you. And this presentation, has it already been provided to the board secretary?
I have printed copies of it here. I spoke to your offices about it. They said bring them, and I can be happy to email it to you.
Okay.
Exactly as
If
it
you
is.
could email it to the board secretary, and we will just mark this as P1, will be the entire electronic presentation. I assume you're not represented by Mr. Simon?
I'm sorry. Yes, I am. I am
Okay.
represented by.
So let's call this then are we up to 04? Oh, okay. So we'll mark this 02.
01 was Mr. Steck's handout, right?
Got it.
All right.
Go ahead.
We good to go?
Yep.
All right. Like I said, my name is Tom Maney, and I live at 30 Oakley Avenue in Summit. Let's see if this comes back, because my pictures went away. About 6 years ago, I left my first act in my career, and I started in Summit building houses, buying spec, turning over, flipping homes. And I have had dozens of interactions with the Summit Zoning Board, and I've looked at literally hundreds of lots in Summit to see what is the potential of that lot. What can I do with it as a builder? And I was told very straight out that every builder or developer who buys a piece of property in the Summit clearly needs to know what the city's zoning codes are. And for anybody to buy a lot thinking that you can get a variance to build whatever you want is very risky and also very foolish. And you may know who told me that. That was told by Krista Anderson, who taught me many things about what's right and wrong in how you look at a piece of property in the Summit for building and developing. Summit has three things that I'd like to focus on that I find are very objectionable here. One, that in the master plan, every structure needs to maintain community character and ensure harmony with existing styles. The buildings shall not be dominant and proportionate to their complementary surroundings. And any variance, and I think this is truly the most important thing we're talking about here, the variance is outlined in the City of Summit. It says to be a public benefit rather than a benefit that accrues specifically for the property owner. Well, we don't feel that in any way that the Beacon property adheres to any of these things. And we've all seen this plan. And this plan it's a nice building, very modern looking, but what it doesn't show in all that white space is us, the neighborhood, the community. And we have spent an awful lot of time talking about and seeing pictures of us as white space or trees that are put there that will never be planted. And I believe it's truly more important for all of us to look not at what they would see looking outward at us, but what all of us would see looking at it. So, using some of the latest technology from Google and their Gemini software and a new piece of AI graphic software with a fun name called Nana Banana, I have taken a look at what this would look like if you inserted this property.
Excuse me 1 second. This is going way beyond public comment.
No, it's not.
We have a gentleman here who hasn't qualified himself with any expertise whatsoever. There are extensive exhibits created by qualified professionals showing the views of this building from all sides with winter foliage, i.e. none. And now all of a sudden we have, this is way beyond the scope of public comment. This is not an expert witness.
And that's what I want to confirm. Do you have any license? Are you an architect?
No, sir.
Anything
I
like
don't have
that?
any
All right.
people like Mr. Sherry had. I'm a person with a graphic software who tried to create a rendering that represents what this is going to look like.
Yeah, but-
I'm not stating this is fact. I'm doing my
Hang on
best.
for 1 second, Mr. Simon.
Yeah. So when members of the public, such as Mr. Maney, present evidence and testimony, as in all cases, the board is to give it the weight and credibility that it deserves. There's no requirement that a member of the public who wishes to provide testimony be an expert witness. There's no requirement that a member of the public that wishes to offer exhibits be an expert witness. The board, Mr. Maynor, board professionals, board members have the right, certainly, to question any witness, including Mr. Maney, as to what he's presenting, and you can make independent determinations, I believe, based on answers to those questions, as well as the testimony provided, and give it the weight it deserves. It's certainly inappropriate, humbly, for a member of the public to be precluded from offering evidence that he or she has taken the time to prepare in an effort to demonstrate concerns of the public relative to a development application. If you recall, and I'm not comparing one person to the next person, but I spent a great amount of time cross-examining more than one of the applicant's witnesses, and that cross-examination went in part to their credibility in terms of how they went about preparing particular exhibits. And I will say, and we'll get to it, I guess, at a future meeting in terms of summation, but some of the answers that I received to the hows, wheres, and whys certain exhibits were prepared were, in my humble opinion, less than adequate. So I think the point being is that witness such as this may be allowed to at least present the presentation that he has prepared, and the board can question, the applicant's attorney can question, and you ultimately can give it whatever weight you believe that it deserves. You may determine that a certain piece of evidence is to be given no weight. You may determine that a piece of evidence should be given some weight, but not full weight for one reason or another. That's up to the board. But certainly, a member of the public can provide information as long as it is relevant to the proceedings. And I believe that what Mr. Maney, is to present will be absolutely relevant to your consideration of the application, which of course includes not only the D1 variance, not only the D3 variance, not only the bulk variances, not only the exceptions, but major site plan approval that's required of this applicant.
All right, and on that note of relevance, Madam Chairwoman, you have the ability to determine that something is relevant or irrelevant and direct the comment to move on if you feel it's not relevant. Now, I agree, we confirmed, no professional license. Obviously, this is not a professional rendering. We've heard the representation that it is generated using AI. Up to you on whether you want to allow any comments on this photo, not photo, but AI rendering.
Well, I think that just to give the public, the full public that's here, the respect that they deserve, the number of hours of meetings that people have come and listened to, I would like to hear what Mr. Maney has to say, and then, again, the board will assess what value we place on it, to Mr. Simon's point at the end.
So I maintain my objection to allowing this testimony. If Mr. Simon called Mr. Maney and started down this road, he would get 3 feet. He's not qualified to give this kind of testimony. I think it's an error, and I object to it.
He's not being presented as an expert witness.
I understand. I think
Presenting expert testimony.
but
No, he's not.
we want to make clear, and I think everyone in the board, in the room understands, this is not a professional rendering. This is AI. Understanding that AI can do lots of things, it is not necessarily accurate in many cases. So
Yes.
with
Yes.
that background, I'll ask you to please, keep your
Fine.
comments straightforward.
Straightforward.
And let's move it along.
Again, most importantly, I'm not saying it's an exact rendering by any means. I did the very best I could to show you how Oakley Avenue will fit right in and how this looks. Okay. One of the things, the first point that I was trying to make
And
is
Mr.
about...
Mady, I think what would be helpful is if you slowly, first of all, identify each slide
Yes.
as you are bringing it up.
Yes.
That you would identify verbally each slide as you're bringing it up. Explain what it is that the
Okay.
board and members of the public are seeing,
Okay.
and what you intend to demonstrate by showing that particular slide.
Thank you. Yes.
Go ahead.
A picture's worth 1,000 words. Just a moment ago, you were asking about trees in that border area there. We're all wondering, what does it look like? Well, I'm going to show you in a minute exactly what it looks like, just a regular picture of it. Because the visuals we're all trying to comprehend, we can look at. So what this is...
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Because earlier you had said you had handouts of other
I have this
slides.
in a printed version. Yes, sir.
It might be beneficial to have that in front of us if you want to take notes on the individual.
If you'd like.
handouts,
Sure.
the slides.
Excuse me, I'm having trouble hearing. Is there a microphone this gentleman has? Because you really can't understand what he's saying.
Thank you. You might have enunciating.
Get close to the microphone. Yeah.
Or do you need a hearing device, maybe? Do we have a hearing device?
I will try to enunciate a little bit.
Just make sure you speak into the microphone.
I have just.
Let's see if they can hear it. When he talks into the mic.
Oh, okay, so what I did with this picture was using Google Maps, Google Gemini, and their Nana Banana AI graphics software, was take the existing rendering provided into an image of the park with Oakley Avenue all along that border there.
So that would be looking east.
Correct. You're facing east here. Starting at where you can see here at Oakley,
Okay, explain, again.
this
please
picture was,
explain.
okay, the reason for this picture is, one of the reasons is we're trying to say that the buildings are architecturally consistent and cohesive to the neighborhood. Well, this is a picture of the neighborhood from adjacent to the park, and it's just one picture of nothing but colonials, Tudors, and Victorians. And in my opinion, nothing that looks anything like the structure that they're proposing to build. Point one. The next slide is a Google Earth overhead. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I keep moving away from it. Is a Google Earth overhead, because I'm going to show you vantages from 3 specific areas. The first area I'm going to show is right by home plate of the baseball diamond, Right behind it, there is a red shed that the city uses. Now, I believe all of you have been to the site and taken a look. Okay, so this is location number 1, right there. Location number 2 is all the way at the bottom here, next to the paddle tennis courts, looking directly up or north towards Wilson Park School. And location number 3, right there, is looking from between the paddleball courts and the basketball court, directly at the side of what is the proposed church.
And the record should reflect that you just utilized the PowerPoint presentation to identify by number the locations.
That's correct.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is that shed. You've all seen this area. This is right by the back, behind the backstop.
And you're showing what you're
And this is
showing
just
right
a-
now.
this
Wait,
is a
Tom,
non-altered
Tom,
photo.
Tom,
Yes,
you
sir.
have to listen to me.
Okay.
Okay? Right now, you're showing a slide that is entitled Photo Location Number
Number
1
one.
that identifies a home plate and a red shed.
That is
correct?
That's correct.
Go on. Explain what that is and why we're looking at it.
Before you go on, did you
And
take
did-
this photo?
I did.
Okay.
And when did you take this photo?
In December. I took this right
December of
before the-
2025?
20 of 25, right before the snowstorm that we had after the holidays.
Go ahead.
The trees you were speaking of are these trees where you can see, right here. These are the 50-foot-tall deciduous trees that are on the city's property outside of the property line of the church, of the 695 property. Those are the exact trees that we're all kind of going back and forth wondering.
So, Mr. Maney, before you go on,
Yes.
the white structure that's in the background, what is that?
That is the garage that is currently at the back of the 695 Springfield Avenue property.
Thank you.
Using a little of the graphics software, we're going to take this picture and we're going to show you what it's going to look like with 10-foot tall, 21-foot long solar panels and a parking lot where they want to move the setback 15 feet from the rear property line.
So, Mr. Manning, you have now identified, the next slide in your presentation, identified as photo location number 1 revised.
Yes.
And you took photo location number 1 and you did what with it?
Using the Gemini Google software, what I did was I build the exact height and skies solar panels with the building in the background and the parking underneath. To the best of my ability, I tried to make it look like what their design would look like. It is not by any means an exact rendering, but this is what you will look like. And what you will see, one thing is that when they do go to build it, they're going to clear all that scrub that's out of there. That's part of the construction process. The visibility from here to there is only going to get greater. The second picture I have is looking up, looking north. This is photo location number 2.
Okay, Mr. Manning, you took this photo?
Same day.
And you took it on the same day?
Same
and-
day, December of 22.
Okay, and
24.
what is it intended to depict?
Just a current view, looking north from where the paddleball courts are, up to the Wilson Park School. So that would be the west side of the property line. Now, when you add a little of the graphics software to show what this rendering could possibly look like, this is the imposing structure that is 35 feet tall that they want to move 26 feet, I believe, closer than the setbacks allow. This is what it's going to look like.
So right now, you're showing photo location number 2 revised, which is your photo number 2, and you have utilized the AI software to superimpose the proposed development.
Yes, that is correct. And this is photo number 3.
Okay, so it's
This is-
identified as photo number 3. Did you take this photo?
Yes, I did.
And when did you take it?
Same date as I took the others.
Okay, and photo numbers 1, 2, and 3, you believe, based on your sworn testimony, accurately depict
how those views looked at the time you took the photograph?
100%.
Okay, and what does photo location number 3 depict?
It depicts looking from between the basketball court and the paddleball court directly east to the side of the property, the current look of the property. And photo location number 3 revised is what this 35-foot tall wall adjacent to the side of Wilson Park, a rendering of what it will somewhat look like.
Okay, and this is this photo location number 3 revised with superimposed development.
That is correct. And it's rather imposing, I would say. Now, that's enough of the graphic software. I'm just going to get to some real numbers here, but I have a little visual chart because, again, I'm a visual person and I want to show how things really look. Currently, the Beacon Church at 4 Waldron sits on a lot. Oops, I'm sorry. Currently, the Beacon Church, I'm used to having a mic clipped. Currently, the Beacon Church at 4 Waldron, the entire lot, the lot which is 70 by 121, based on the city lot plan, is 8,468 square feet. The site at 695 Springfield Avenue is over 83,000 square feet. That means that without any variance, any kind, they're getting over 10 times, they have to work with 10 times the property that they currently have. If the red circle in the middle here, that represents the entire lot that they have at 4 Waldron. The green square, or rectangle on the outside of it, is the buildable size of 695 Springfield Avenue, and the blue is the entire lot size. That's not the sanctuary size. That's not what they're currently using. That's a fraction of this red area. Look at how much more space they gain. Over 10 times the size of a lot. So I ask you, is this nothing more than a self-inflicted hardship? Who said it has to be this way? Who said it has to be this big? Why can't the Beacon Church build on the existing buildable footprint? Every lot I ever purchased, I had to. I didn't because I wanted to. Why isn't 10 times more space adequate enough for the size of this congregation's needs? 10 times more space than they currently have. 5 years ago, when they applied for a zoning variance, they needed 11,000 square feet in their zoning application dated April 15th, 2020, to the city of Summit. Why now do they need so much more space? In that zoning application, they said they had a membership needs of 400 people. In this one, it says 300. Why now? When their population of the congregation is decreasing, as stated by the 2 applications they have submitted on file to the city, with 25% less capacity, why do they need so much more space? What about their membership really demands this? A 10x increase. Well, I've been to the Beacon Church services. I was there on Sunday. It's lovely. The Reverend is fabulous. She told a beautiful story about being at the gate of the airport and how she helped an Arabic woman translate because her flight had been canceled. It was a lovely story. Everybody there was very nice and welcoming. But there's 50 people in the room. Now, I get it's a little crowded. It's a small space. But they don't need 10 times more space to accommodate it, and their membership is not growing. It's decreasing, as it shows over their own 5-year analysis of their needs. So my very last slide, which I'm sure you're very excited about. We welcome the Beacon Church into this neighborhood. Fabulous message, wonderful people, everything about, but it needs to maintain the community's character. It needs to be consistent with the design. It can't be so dominant and overpowering to our neighborhood, to the park that we all use each and every day. Soccer Sunday, baseball, Summit baseball. We all live in that park. And if you need a variance, It needs to be for the public's benefit, not a self-inflicted hardship that was created by your own architect's design. And that's an architect who has never built a property in New Jersey or even north of the Mason-Dixon line. Don't create self-inflicted hardships. Be realistic in the size and the scope of what you need, as everybody else who develops a building in Summit has to do. Build within the zoning and architectural guidelines that we all have to adhere to, whether it's residential or commercial. And I strongly urge the board to completely reject this on every single aspect, from the solar panels, to the inconsistency of the architectural design, to the overarching self-inflicted hardship of creating a need that they really don't have for this much space when given a lot that is 10 times bigger than what they currently have. They can't make that work. Thank you very much.
Now, before you go, I do have questions. I want to clarify
Yes, sir.
some of these AI renderings. How, yeah, I know you said you used Gemini software.
Yes.
How did you prompt those renderings to be generated?
Great question. Very difficult. What I did was I put in as many of the dimensions. So move that 25 feet from the property, from the edge of the sidewalk. I used as much of the information from the city documents, and then you type them in under, so you put these prompts in, and it designs that for you. So half the time it doesn't give you what you ask for, and you gotta go back and ask it.
All right, so you did not upload particular plans for it to gather the information
I
from?
sure tried.
You physically typed it in yourself on what the dimensions of the building are and asked it to generate an image?
That is correct.
And you just mentioned sometimes it doesn't give you what you're asking for. So
That
you
is correct.
prompted it multiple times, and these are not the first results?
No. These
Okay.
are what I feel is the most representative results.
Okay.
In a manner that could be close. Sometimes they're turned sideways and there are buildings in the background that don't exist, and you in an honest way, I tried to make them reflect. By the way, it's a great piece of software the city should buy. It really is. It's very inexpensive, and it could show you exactly how things, and you all could use it for yourself.
That clarifies my questions. Mr. Maynard, do you have follow-up questions about any of that?
I do not, because frankly, none of this is credible or accurate.
And I have to strongly caution the board here. We've heard it's AI generated. It's based on him inputting the data from the plans. It's not just whatever image comes out, it's the ones that he followed up and he specifically chose. I would recommend that you find very little particular relevance in the AI renderings themselves in your decisions.
Take it with a grain of salt, but if I could say one thing, their renderings don't show the community. They've omitted us in all of their pictures. I've tried to include us in my efforts to show the board what this will look like. Maybe send them back to go render it accurately.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I offer one comment, though?
Please.
The print that I received did not contain quite a number of the slides that were shown. And I think for the record,
We're going to have the electronic presentation marked as, I believe we called it O2.
O2.
Yes. So that is going to be submitted to the board secretary, and we'll have that official version. Thank you for pointing that out. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? And please state your name, spell your last name.
Clara, last name's Jenkins, Jenkins.
Thank you, and address, please.
Is 6 Stacy Court in Summit.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe lean into the microphone.
Yeah.
Lean into the microphone. A
Okay,
little closer.
you can hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? So I have some comments that I wanted to present, but first of all, I wanted to say I did see him Sunday at our congregation as I was there, and certainly welcomed. When we were looking to move 15 years ago, we looked at Summit, and when we looked at Summit, we looked at it as a community and what we wanted in a community, not necessarily a neighborhood. You can always move from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, but what was the feeling that this town projected? What struck us was the dedication to the schools. Phenomenal school system. They've prepared my daughters, all of whom are in college now, to do very well in college and their lives going forward. And the other thing that struck me as we were driving around town were the number of places of worship in this town. Many, every denomination that I could think of. And when I saw Beacon, I was pleasantly surprised. It was this quaint little building that was almost in the heart of downtown, and it looked very traditional. And when I walked inside, I was pleasantly surprised by the community that I met and felt when I was there. This past Sunday, as we're recovering from an unprecedented, at least in the last couple of years, 24 inches of snow, I watched a lot of our silver congregants battle 3-foot snow mounds because they have to park on the street. There is no parking lot for them at Fort Waldron. They have to park on the street and then go down the street and then to a sidewalk opening and come back up. And so providing parking for individuals, which does increase the footprint from where we currently are, is critical. They need a place to park. I also want to emphasize, before I get to my written remarks, that this is a church. It is most occupied on Sunday. The school system is fabulous, but it doesn't operate on Sunday. So I think there's very little overlap between what is going on at Wilson during the week and what is going on at the church on Sunday. Anyway, I've lived here for 14 years, and Beacon has been an important part of my life. My sister is a Unitarian Universalist minister. We have grown up believing in community, and community is every single person within the town limits, within the county limits, within the state limits. It is not just who lives to the right of me and who lives to the left of me. Beacon is a place where I have found friendship, support, and a sense of belonging. It's an inclusive community. It welcomes people from all backgrounds. There's no judgment. I was raised Catholic, was a Catholic until I was about 24. We love our current building. It is so quaint, it's charming with the balcony, but it does have poor eyesight. If you sit too far to the right or too far to the left, you're blocked by columns, so you spend your time going like this to see. It does not promote that feeling of welcome and community that you want when you're trying to navigate your seats. When you're standing up to hold hands, it is difficult to move chairs. It is difficult for our individuals who are handicapped to find a way to place their wheelchairs. My daughters went to the old Red Cross building to get their babysitting certificate when they were in middle school at Lawton Johnson. And I am thrilled that that is being considered for that. I'm thrilled that they're paying attention to the environment. I'm thrilled that they're looking at parking for congregants who now, when I park across the street, I don't walk down to the crosswalk on Summit and Springfield to walk all the way back to Beacon. I just run across the road, as does everyone else. I think that's just a perennial problem that Summit has. I think the location on Springfield will allow us to worship together. I think the sustainability, the solar panels, I think that can always be addressed. There's different types of solar panels, some that work more effectively if there is shade than others. We're committed Beacon is to being a positive presence in this community. We want to be part of when people come to Summit and they're looking at this community as a place to raise their families, that they go, yeah, you know, I like that there's the Presbyterian Church. I like that there's a Unitarian fellowship. I like that all of these different denominations are here working together. The church and the members of the church care deeply about the community, and we hope to continue contributing in meaningful ways. So I respectfully ask that you support Beacon's application so we continue serving Summit for generations to come. Thank you for your time and service to the community.
Good evening.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Torsten Gericke, last name Gericke, G-E-R-I-K-E.
And can you just repeat your first name, please?
Torsten.
Thank you. And can you give your address, please?
Yes, 33 Aubrey Street here in Summit.
Go ahead.
So good evening. My name is Torsten Gericke. My wife Christine and I have been in Summit residence for over 10 years. Our daughters attended the Summit High and Middle School. I used to work here in Summit as a physician at Celgene and then at BMS. And we love our house in the Tedlock Park neighborhood. We are very happy to call Summit our home, and that is also because of Beacon. Beacon is a warm and loving congregation where we've built meaningful friendships and a strong sense of community. I support Beacon's plan to relocate to Springfield Avenue. It will allow Beacon to continue serving its members while remaining here in Summit. I've heard the concerns about parking, and I would like to share my perspective as a member. Our congregation is very familiar with using street parking in our current Valdron Avenue location. Many members walk, carpool, or bike. These are practices that reflect our commitment to environmental responsibility. I personally live within biking distance, and I plan to do so as often as I can as soon the weather gets better. With on-site parking and additional street parking along Springfield Avenue, I believe Beacon can responsibly accommodate our needs while remaining a respectful neighbor. Beacon is an important part of this community for a very long time, and I hope you will give these plans your full support. Thank you.
Hi.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yep. I
And
do.
please state your name, spell your last name.
Sure. My name is Larcenia Cooper. Everyone calls me Larcy. Cooper, C-O-O-P-E-R.
Thank you.
I live at 188 Woodland Avenue. I'm a homeowner in Summit, New Jersey. I've been a corporate attorney for 12 plus years, and I'm also an adjunct professor at Columbia Law School. I'm a member of the Beacon congregation. I moved to Summit in 2020. And I found Beacon in 2023. I found that the community at Beacon is what has made Summit home for me. And I sought a religious community, you know, when life sort of brings you to your knees. I actually have come here from a funeral, and apologies, my children are in the back making a lot of noise. But what I wanted to speak to is what it brings to Summit. I've found deep friendships. My son has found his best friend who they're 10 but like to spend their evenings teaching each other calculus. And so it's a really warm community where there's a space really, and it's inclusive for everyone. I was particularly attracted to the children's programs because it helps children to think about what does it mean to live with values, and what are your values, and how do you substantively engage with them. And so, you know, when you think about what kind of neighbor you want and what kind of community you want to build, these are the people that you would want to invite into your community. And so I just wanted to share that. My children are 3.5 and 10, and they walk all over the building and are part of the community and are cared for, and I don't have to sort of constantly monitor them, and it's a wonderful, inviting environment, and the structure of the designs does allow for more people to attend versus attending online. So there's also this robust sort of, I know someone mentioned that they attended one service. It's hard to understand the extent of the community based on the attendance of who was in the room, because so many people attend online. And part of that has to do with the fact that there's a lot of young families and kids. And it can be hard to be engaging with the child while also trying to listen to service. And because the space is small and the noise is quite porous, being able to have sort of closed off rooms where you can both hear and also engage with the kids, it would actually add a lot of value to all of us that are trying to get that spiritual care, and to sort of navigate the complexity that is being human. So that's it. That's what I wanted to contribute. I hope you vote in favor of the proposal. I think that it will continue to make our community really valuable. Thank you.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Blake Scalet, S-C-A-L-E-T.
And address, please.
Yes, I live at 133 Summit Avenue. And I'm also the pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church at 587 Springfield Avenue, a neighbor of the proposed Beacon Church. They're moving from down the street to much closer, hopefully, if you all approve. Beacon is one of the faith communities in this robust community we have here in Summit. In the 14 years I've been here, Beacon has been a faithful partner in serving not just their members. In fact, that was a point that I really feel like is important to lift up. There's some questions about how many of their people are or not in Summit. The town of Summit is the parish for all of us. We regularly serve our neighbors, whether they're members or not, regularly. We feed people when they're hungry. We collect things for them. Beacon is one of the leaders in supporting the whole community, making sure it's provided for. That is a common good. In this country, for better or for worse, most of the common good actually rests on houses of worship. Perhaps if we had a different state system, it would be different, but we don't. Beacon lives out that action very fervently, caring for this community in the arts, in education, in service. There's also the question that I just feel a need to lift up about, are they truly a Summit congregation? They've been here since 1908. My own congregation was also founded in 1908, so it seems awfully important to me whenever I've heard neighbors saying, they're not really Summit, because to question their legitimacy questions my own legitimacy. And we feel pretty rooted in Summit, and we think 115 years is enough time to say that you're a legitimate resident. Certainly most property owners in this town have been here. We are part of Summit. Beacon is part of Summit. Finally, I just want to lift up that a guiding principle of this nation from the very beginning has been the free enterprise and worship of its people. That is something we've prioritized from the very beginning here, that we have to provide space for people, whatever their faith tradition is, to worship. And this principle that faith communities in this country provide so much for the whole people here. Beacon does both of those things. Whether you ever attend, whether you believe the things they believe, that's irrelevant. They make a difference here. They're part of Summit. They make this place better. This space will make them be able to do what they do better for the whole community. I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Christopher Cotter, C-O-T-T-E-R.
Thank you. And address, please.
752 Springfield Avenue.
All right.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and members of the Board of Adjustment. I think perhaps more than most, I appreciate the efforts that go into serving as a member of the zoning board, so I thank you for all that you do on behalf of this community. As a 35-plus year resident of Springfield Avenue, a place where my wife and I have raised our 3 children, we've had the benefit of seeing the evolution of many of the properties on Springfield Avenue, not unlike what's happened in the rest of the community. And we think that's for the better. And we believe that this proposal in front of you tonight is a continuation of that positive evolution of Springfield Avenue. The pastor from St. John's Lutheran reminded me of something when he said that they share the same origination date in Summit. They share more than that with the Unitarian Church. Originally, until the 1960s, St. John's was located in the Central Business District. And they, like the Unitarian Church, outgrew their space. And they moved to their current location on Springfield Avenue. Later in the 1990s, Fountain Baptist Church, which was only perhaps 100 yards from where we are tonight on Chestnut Avenue, also moved after needing a larger facility and space to Glenside Avenue. So the proposal tonight is not certainly unprecedented, but more than that, I believe that one of the strengths of this community are the variety of the congregations that we have. And while I'm not a member of the Unitarian congregation, I do admire the work that they do. And I do believe that having strong congregations, and the many that we do in this community, makes Summit the extraordinary place that it is. So I urge you tonight to support this proposal. Thank you very much.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name, spell your last name.
Betsy Zimmerman, and the last name is Zimmerman. I live at 40 Beekman Terrace in Summit.
Thank you.
So I
Can I
wanted
ask
to
you
just...
please speak up a little bit?
Of course. I wanted to open by acknowledging that I know emotions are understandably very high for a lot of neighbors, of which I am one. And I wanted to acknowledge and honor that I think their concerns are very real, and I understand that they're very worried about them. I am not a congregant at the church, nor did I really have a strong opinion one way or another when I first learned of this issue. And I think that everyone here can agree on a number of shared goals, including safety, attractiveness, not burdening the neighbors overly with traffic or any other dangerous conditions. So one of the things that I wanted to share is that I am relatively new to Summit, having moved here just under 5 years ago. But before that, I lived in Short Hills for almost 30 years. And I was directly across the street from a church, the Community Congregational Church, which is a little bit larger than this church. I think the congregation there is about 30% larger. And it has a very similar parking situation where the parking lot is undersized for the congregation in about the same proportion. I was the nearest neighbor to that church. I was about 50 feet across the street. There was an empty lot next to it, so I was by far the closest. And what I wanted to share was that I will confess that when my husband and I first bought that property, it was not particularly attractive to us because of the proximity to the church. Our decision to buy it was motivated largely by finances. It was the cheapest house that we could afford, and we stayed there for a very long time. We were worried about the noise, we were worried about the traffic, and just the nuisance in general of being right across the street from a church. I did want to share, though, that in that 30 years, despite our trepidation, we actually really didn't experience any disruptions at all, even during very busy times. There were a couple of funerals in particular I can think of where there were tons and tons of cars parked up and down the street. People were respectful. Nobody ever disrupted us in any way. So our experience, to our surprise, was actually quite positive. Never had any difficulty getting out of our driveway, anything like that. It's my belief that the Community Congregational Church was also a sanctuary church. I know that they hosted AA meetings. I believe that they were also part of an interfaith group that hosted meals and even overnight stays for families that were unhoused. We never experienced any problems from those activities either. I totally understand the concerns around people's safety, but I just wanted to say my experience as a neighbor for quite a long time was quite positive in terms of those things. When I look at the design of what this church is proposing, I do think that from what I've seen, and I've not been part of the conversations from the beginning, the level of care and the diligence that the Beacon congregation seems to have brought to the process and the mutual respectfulness that they've tried to bring to neighborly discussions has been impressive. I know that they've been responsive to questions and they've prepared their studies and they've made revisions, even when it seemed to me that those requests probably did exceed what's been asked of us as neighbors. My sense is that they've tried to engage genuinely and collaboratively with the Summit community, and I commend them for that. From a neighborhood perspective, as a close neighbor of this church, I do think that institutional uses, like a church, contribute something that's fundamentally different than just more housing. The shared spaces that these churches make available to community members, the activities that they bring, are a very different part of the community fabric, and I think quite a positive one, even though I don't personally belong to a church. I have nonetheless attended events at lots of them, and I think that they're an addition to a community, not a detraction. Third, I just wanted to point out that I know that the board has recently approved high-density housing developments along Springfield Avenue, and that the community is well under its fair housing obligations. And as a neighbor, my concern is that if this property were not used as a church, it would likely be turned over to high-density housing to satisfy the community's fair housing obligations. And from my perspective as a neighbor, just speaking for myself personally, that would be much less appealing to me than to have a church which is used sporadically and which offers many community benefits. I think those are all the points that I wanted to make. I will just add that I don't personally find the church's design offensive. My house is an old one. It would definitely fit in with that colonial character, but I also recognize that there are folks in the community that don't like the way my house looks, and there are certainly other houses that maybe I would do a little bit differently. I don't think that this design seems offensive in any way, and I'm not aware of any ordinances within the town that require all of the new housing to be built to look like the old. It certainly should fit in and be of an appropriate size and scale, but to me, as a neighbor, I just wanted to note that that is not bothersome at all. And I just wanted to close by saying I really appreciate that people on both sides of this issue have tried to bring lots of information, lots of resources, and a respectful dialogue to the situation. I know it's not an easy one. I don't think that there is a resolution that everyone would be happy with, but on balance, I think probably the church is the best from my perspective in terms of what it brings to the community than the alternative. That's all. Thank you.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Nicole DeLauro, DELAURO. I live at 1 Oakley Ave, and I am a client of Mr. Simons.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board. I respectfully ask that you not approve this project as submitted. The proposal represents an over-intensification of the site that will create foreseeable impacts on the surrounding residential neighborhood. The proposal requires numerous variances for a brand-new build. And when a project needs that many departures from the ordinance, it signals that the design does not fit the zone. Approving this as presented would undermine the intent of the zone plan and set a precedent for future development. The intensity of this proposal will create predictable impacts regarding parking, traffic, and setbacks. Springfield Avenue is not designed for overflow parking. The roadways crest and curve, limit the sight lines, and even legally parked vehicles place occupants dangerously close to moving traffic. Additional drop-offs, pickups, or overflow parking create a foreseeable safety risk. Reduced side yard setbacks, as proposed, eliminate the important buffers meant to protect the neighboring properties. Those protections exist for safety, privacy, lighting, and livability. This is not about opposition to use. It is about scale, intensity, and compliance. So my request is straightforward. Require a plan that reduces the intensity, minimizes the variances, and provides enforceable standards consistent with the ordinance. Thank you. Hi.
If
Oh,
you could-
yes,
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Christina Cogan, last name Cogan.
And address, please.
686 Springfield Avenue, Summit, New Jersey.
And are you one of Mr. Simon's clients as well?
I am.
Thank you.
As stated, my name is Christina Cogan, and I am a local homeowner who lives on 686 Springfield Avenue in Summit. I'm writing this letter because of the serious safety concerns I have for my family and the surrounding community near the newly proposed Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation Church. My house is directly opposite the site on Springfield Avenue. I would first like to state that I believe there is a path forward for the church to be built on the proposed lot of 695 Springfield Avenue, provided that it stays in line with current zoning laws. The stated purpose of those zoning laws is to provide a safe place for the entire community, not just the church. With that said, I have some major concerns with the deviations from zoning laws the church is requesting. My primary safety concern is the request for a reduction in parking space and the violation of the minimum lot size requirement. Springfield Avenue is a major roadway and currently has a sidewalk only on one side. Getting into and out of driveways because of the limited visibility and speeding traffic is already challenging for myself and my neighbors on Springfield Avenue. An influx of more cars parked on Springfield Avenue would not only create a much greater danger to drivers, but also pedestrians and bikers. Adding more parked cars to Springfield Avenue would also disrupt the peaceful enjoyment of the nearby homes and the community who use the shoulder path for various activities such as biking, running, and walking. If the church simply abided by the minimum lot size and required parking, there would not be safety concerns for issues such as emergency services, entry and exit capabilities, as well as unsafe spillover parking risks for drivers and pedestrians for the entire community of Summit. It affects us all, truly. My other serious concern is the structure of the solar canopies in the parking lot. This is prohibited in residential areas by zoning laws. There are no other homes or institutions that have requested this zoning violation on Springfield Avenue. By allowing this, the zoning board would be setting a precedence that is against the established zoning laws. There's no religious need for these solar panels, and they diminish the beauty and character of the neighborhood that the residents who live here deeply care about. In conclusion, I ask that the City of Summit Zoning Board not grant these requested variances for 695 Springfield and have them adhere to the zoning laws for minimum lot area and the parking and solar canopies. I ask that when making these decisions, you prioritize the safety concerns of the community, the families who live in Summit, and the children who attend Wilson Primary Center. We are only a community when we work together. Thank you for your time.
All right. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do swear that.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Susan Hairston. The spelling of my name is Hairston, and I live at 20 Lowell Avenue. And just for the record, it is on the corner where the Magic Fountain is. Which, when you talk about safety and inconvenience and emergency vehicles, I am a expert witness in what is wrong and what is wrong. Yes. So I want to begin by thanking you all for your service and what you're doing for the town of Summit in this role. I do not envy you, but I know from whence you sit and the decisions that you make, because I sat as the council member in 2019 to 2023 when the decision about the affordable housing was being considered. And so I know the weight that you carry on behalf of the town. And, but I share that with you to say I am here speaking on behalf of the Beacon congregation. And so I want to read some remarks because I, like the gentleman, could go on and on and on forever, even without slides. But I want to be respectful of your time. So I am here in strong support of the Beacon congregation's application for variance approval to renovate and relocate to 695 Springfield Avenue. I'm a lifelong resident of Summit. My family roots extend back generations, and I can testify to the changes that Mr. Cotter spoke about with the churches moving from downtown, the history lesson that he gave. My family witnessed that. And as a former member of council, I have seen firsthand how faith communities strengthen the civic fabric of our city. And Beacon is one of the finest examples of that contribution. For more than a century, this congregation has served not only its members, but the broader Summit community through interfaith collaborations, youth engagement, community dialogue, and by consistently opening its doors to initiatives that have served the greater good of not just Summit, but of the larger region. During my time on council, Beacon offered their space and their leadership in support of community-wide efforts, and they have never operated as an isolated institution. They've been good neighbors, they've been partners, and good caretakers. This application reflects nearly 2 years of dialogue. I can only imagine your pain about what you dream about when you ride by the facility. And in good faith engagement with their neighbors and the city, Beacon has reduced seating. It has addressed parking and design concerns and narrowed its variance request. And then I hear talk about that evolution sounding like it's done to not in good faith. And so the role you sit in, I ask you to suspend that desire to say it's being done for bad purposes. The record demonstrates responsiveness, not rigidity. It demonstrates a congregation working diligently to balance its religious mission with neighborhood considerations. Land use decisions require careful attention to impacts, compliance, and precedent. And they are boring as hell, all of the things that you have had to learn and apply with a good intention and heart. They also require recognition of long-standing community institutions and the protections afforded to houses of worship under both federal and state law. So Beacon is not seeking to intensify use beyond reason. It's seeking a right-sized, accessible, sustainable home that will allow its congregation to gather in one service and to continue serving Summit responsibly for decades to come. And that is how the community evolves. Someone who is now with small children will be those seniors who want, that's what position I'm in now at Washington School in that area, where I don't want to run my kids across the street. Now I want people to be careful and not run me over. Summit has long been a community that embraces faith institutions as a part of its civic ecosystem. So it does my heart so good to hear the folks who are opposed to this saying they're not opposed to the religious institution. They have concerns, and I respect those. And I know that you all, the time that you put in, will help offer solutions that you don't have to reject this, but you can make this a win-win situation. And no, it won't be a win-win for everybody at this moment, but it will look towards the greater good. Beacon's history here reflects cooperation, compassion, and contribution, not conflict. The congregation has gone above and beyond to be a good neighbor throughout this process. And approval of this application would affirm both the facts in the record and the values that our city represents and that you, I'm so grateful, uphold. I respectfully urge the board to approve Beacon's application so that this congregation and the community may continue a long-standing service to Summit in an appropriate and thoughtfully designed space. Thank you.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Chester Elton, E-L-T-O-N.
Thank you. Address, please.
Yeah, 84 Mountain Avenue, Summit.
All right, go ahead.
Great. Thank you very much, Board, for taking the time to go over this again and again and again. You know, I've lived in Summit now for over 35 years, and I love this town. I love the way we treat each other. I love the way we show up for each other. My kids have gone through the elementary schools and the middle schools and the high schools, and now my grandchildren are at Brayton. Go Bobcats. I love the faith-based community. I'm not a member of Beacon, but I've served on and currently serve on the Summit Interfaith Council. And getting to know the congregations, especially Beacon, and the positive impact they have on our community is one of the reasons we love staying here. I know when you move, it's always traumatic. I know when there's something new, even when it's for the better, there's always that fear. But that property has been derelict for some time now. It doesn't serve our families. It doesn't serve our community. It doesn't serve our seniors or our children. That church and that location, with the leadership they've got, with the vision they have to serve this community, will only benefit us. It's a place where people can gather, where they can talk about really important things, life events, right? And with the growing loneliness that we have in our communities and in our country, a place where people can gather that is that beautiful. If you've looked at the grounds and stuff that they've put together, and the space that it allows for people to have those conversations, to get that help, to come together as a community and help each other. That's the community that I live in. That's a community that I know. Those are my neighbors. Those are my friends. And yeah, it's going to be traumatic. And yeah, it's going to cause change. But we've been through this before. I remember being at the Summit High School and they wanted to put artificial turf at Tatlock Field. Oh my gosh. You'd think you were trying to build a high security prison on that field. And yet we got it in, and guess what? Our kids love it and they use it like crazy. Remember when they built the parking garage? Oh my gosh, that was going to be that. And even this building here, and expanding the YMCA. We've always figured it out. Those are logistics. We figure out logistics. We're really good at it. This is something bigger than that. This is, what kind of community do we want to live in? How do we want to welcome people to our community? How do we want to serve our community? And putting Beacon Congregation at that location on Springfield, trust me, that's only going to make all our lives better. I wholly support the approval of this, because this is the kind of town I want to live in. This is the kind of town that we all want to live in, where we work hard, we support each other, and we love each other. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Cheers.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is David Gordon. Last name is Gordon, and I live at 21 DeBerry Place in Summit.
Thank you.
Thank you, and like others, I'd like to thank you for your service. And I'd also like to apologize if this is at all repetitive. There's been some great testimony tonight. I just wanted to take just a couple of minutes and speak of maybe from a personal perspective about the safe and welcoming and supportive environment that Beacon provides for kids of all ages. So Chris and I found Beacon when we moved to New Jersey in 2005. Our kids at that point were already in high school and college, so we weren't looking for a religious education program. We liked the people at Beacon. We got involved, joined committees, but it's fair to say that we have more of an adult focus. But that changed not long after my retirement in 2015. I was asked by a staff member if I'd consider becoming a teacher in Beacon's Our Whole Lives program for kids in kindergarten and 5th grade. Most OWL teachers are younger parents with kids of their own in the program, but I guess they thought it might be nice to add a soon-to-be grandpa who could bring a somewhat different perspective to the classroom. So I said yes. I signed up for training and volunteered to teach for the coming year. Then another, and for a total of 5 years. It was so much fun. It was easily the most rewarding volunteer experience I've ever had. But why am I sharing this story? Because it gave me the privilege to see the transformative effect when children have a safe space to grow and learn, to be accepted as themselves, develop healthy, caring relationships with others, and find meaningful opportunities to contribute to the community at large. But why the urgency to build a new home? Well, as others have pointed out, the grounds at 695 Springfield will be amazing. There will be real connection with the natural world. And who will benefit from that connection more than kids? I am just so excited thinking about the outdoor classes and recreational activities our kids will enjoy, things unavailable in our current location at 4 Waldron. But this is very important. I want to add that it's also exciting to know the grounds will be accessible for our friends and neighbors. Beacon is a welcoming congregation. We hope that you, all of you, will take a stroll and sit for a while and say hi to someone. These are difficult times and people need connection more than ever. I feel in this new place, Beacon will become an even more important part of the Summit community. So I ask you to support Beacon's application. Thank you very much.
Hi, Rachel Radzewski. Oh, sorry.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And can you spell your last name again, please?
RYDZEWSKI, 11 Pearl Street in Summit.
Thank you.
All right, so I've been a proud resident of Summit since 2015. My family and I moved here after living abroad in the UK. And like so many others, we were initially drawn by Summit's beautiful downtown, the convenience of the Manhattan commute, and a warm and welcoming community. I'm sorry, this mic is dancing with me. But over the past decade, what made Summit feel like home was the way that we were able to weave ourselves into the fabric of this town, mostly from becoming members over at Beacon. I first got to know the community here in Summit as PTO president when we were over on the Washington side. I've recently become a class teacher at the Summit YMCA, and I've continued to serve on the Summit Green Schools organization. And through these roles, I've seen firsthand how much this town values both tradition and thoughtful progress. Our congregation at Beacon Unitarian Universalist is one of the most important parts of that progress. Beacon is where my family landed when we were looking for a spiritual home, and it became just that. My sons, now 12 and 17, have absolutely thrived within Beacon's youth programs. My oldest is even now a part of the youth leadership, and the youngest is also coming up in those programs. We've celebrated holidays there, watched our kids participate in pageants and trunk or treats. We found a space that nurtures the values that we hold dear, even as Summit residents: inclusivity, compassion, and connection. So when I heard about Beacon's plans to build a new home at 695 Springfield Avenue, I was thrilled, not only for our congregation, but for Summit as a whole. Before moving here, we lived in London, one of the most architecturally conscious cities in the world. And there, the planning process can be very intense. Any renovation can feel like you're going before a royal panel. But despite that, London embraces bold and thoughtful growth. You'll see century-old churches standing beside contemporary icons like the London Eye and the Gherkin. Those buildings now symbolize a city that respects its history while boldly leaning into its future. In that same spirit, I believe the proposed design of Beacon's new home is a beautiful complement to Summit's aesthetic. It's not a towering skyscraper, but it is a symbol of our town's diversity, its values, and its capacity for inspiration. Like the beautiful buildings at St. Teresa's and Central Presbyterian Church, where my youngest went to preschool, this will be a place where people gather, where children go, and where community flourishes. Of course, with any new construction, there's always considerations: parking and traffic, integration with the neighborhood, but I believe, as with other places of worship and buildings within Summit, that we can find solutions, ones that honor both the integrity of our neighborhoods and the opportunity to add real value to our town. Beacon is one of the reasons that my family chooses to stay in Summit, and I hope we can give it a home as inspiring as the community that it serves. So thank you to the members of the zoning board, your volunteer, your time and energy, to the careful stewardship of Summit, to preserving the character, the safety, and the beauty of the home that we all love. That is no small responsibility, and I'm grateful for your service and consideration this evening. And I also want to say how proud I am of Beacon's commitment to this vision. As with any meaningful project, there have been revisions, accommodations, and variances, thoughtful adjustments along the way. And through all of it, Beacon has stayed committed not just to a building, but to a dream of creating a future space that serves both its congregation and the broader Summit community. Thank you very much.
Hello. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name and spell your last name.
John Burke, B-U-R-K-E, 29 Fairview Ave.
Thank you.
So I've lived in Summit for 12 years. My home is very close, just 2 blocks from the site. And I respectfully object to the project as it's been submitted. This is because the proposal does not align with the established characteristics of the neighborhood. Further, it would create impacts inconsistent with the intent of Summit's zoning regulations. There is no demonstrated hardship or genuine need to request the proposed variances. Requesting relief from those standards in this instance is a matter of preference rather than necessity. The scale and design of the building do not reflect the existing neighborhood pattern and would fundamentally alter its character. The requested variance would permit a scale and intensity that the zoning ordinance was specifically designed to prevent in this setting. Further, church services, events, and gatherings, particularly on weekends and evenings, will generate substantial vehicle traffic that neighborhood roads are not designed to handle. Overflow parking will spill onto side streets, creating congestion, safety concerns, and reduced access for residents and emergency services. There is also a direct impact on existing community uses. parking associated with the church will likely reduce or compete with parking currently relied upon by Wilson School, particularly during youth soccer and softball games. These activities are central to the neighborhood and serve Summit families. Any loss of parking availability will negatively affect students, parents, and community programs that operate with limited space already. Please also bear in mind the vast majority of the church's congregation does not reside in Summit. As a result, the proposed development would primarily serve non-residents while placing the burdens of increased traffic, parking congestion, and land use impacts squarely on Summit residents. Zoning approvals are intended to balance community benefit with community impact, and in this case, the impacts to local residents are disproportionate to any direct benefit to the town. While places of worship play an important role in society, the location and scale must be appropriate. In this instance, the proposed church does not align with the established nature of the neighborhood, and the requested variances would allow a level of intensity that the zoning code was designed to restrict. For those reasons, I respectfully request that the board deny the requested variances and require that any development on this site comply fully with the existing zoning standards. A project that conforms to the ordinance could move forward without imposing disproportionate impacts on Summit residents, schools, and community activities. Thank you.
Mr. Burke, are you a client of Mr. Simons?
I'm not.
Okay, just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Mr. Susan Harrison, who spoke before, wanted to submit written comments for the members who aren't here.
Oh, they all have to listen to it, or watch it on transcript, right? This is Ms.
This is just
Harrison's
she just spoke.
for public comment.
And she wanted to hand it in. You don't do that?
No, we
Okay.
generally don't.
Right,
I will
thank you.
help her.
Thank you. So if you could please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Ellen Boylan, Boylan, and I reside at 137 Tulip Street in Summit. Good evening, members of the zoning board. As I said, my name is Ellen Boylan. I have lived on Tulip Street in Summit for more than 3 decades, where my husband and I have raised our 3 children. We are also members of the Beacon congregation, where we have been members for more than 2 decades. So we have long and deep roots in this community and in the Beacon congregation. I'm here tonight because I strongly support the design of our new building, and I urge you to approve it. It reflects our congregation's core values of sustainability, inclusion, and stewardship. I'd like to address something that I heard at the past few meetings and then again tonight by the neighbors expert who testified, saying that there's no set way for how a UU building should look, implying that the building we have presented is somehow not connected to our faith. It's true that unlike a Christian church, for example, that is built with a steeple and a cross, or a mosque that is built with a minaret for the call to prayer, no aspect of a UU building is prescribed by a higher authority. This does not mean, however, that our proposal is unrelated to our faith. It is very much grounded in our faith, and I'll explain how that is in some ways. First off, unlike other faith traditions, UU is a democratic, participatory, non-hierarchical religion. In fact, support for democracy in all its forms is central to our faith. At Beacon, we have excellent ministers and a top-notch professional staff, but it's the members of the congregation who are ultimately responsible for Beacon's direction. Our members exercise this responsibility through democratic processes, including our elected board of trustees, various task force, focus groups, town hall meetings at which members voice their opinions and concerns, and congregational meetings at which we vote on major decisions. I tell you this to emphasize that this building is the product of a multi-year process of discussion and discernment, culminating in a democratic congregational vote. The processes are what the UU faith requires of us. We didn't simply hire an architect and ask him to design a nice building. Over the course of several years, our building expansion task force, comprised of 7 members of the congregation and a minister, held multiple meetings with the congregation, gathering input from members on how the new building should not only meet our physical needs for space, for our ministries, socializing, worship, youth and teen programs, staff offices, etc., but more importantly, how the design should reflect our Unitarian Universalist faith. The expansion task force, in turn, communicated all this information to the architect, who grounded his work in the congregation's vision. The design of our building and surrounding grounds were deliberate choices. Every step of the way, the question was asked, how will this building reflect who we are as Unitarian Universalists? And every member of the congregation was invited to answer that question, and many, if not most, did. Even the steeple, the modest 3-foot height increase to a small portion of the structure, which has been the subject of discussion at these meetings, was designed by the congregation to serve a symbolic purpose, enhancing the building's spiritual presence without changing the overall scale of the building. I'll close by just pointing out how the overall design of the building was chosen by the congregation to reflect 2 key aspects of Unitarian Universalism. First, our congregation wanted a modern, fluid building to reflect that UUism is grounded in pluralism. We welcome people of all faith traditions, and Beacon's membership, comprised of people from Christian, Jewish, Hindu, Buddhist traditions, as well as humanists and agnostics, reflects this pluralism. Our current 120-year-old sanctuary, built in the Quaker church tradition, is lovely, but it does not reflect this pluralism that we value. We also wanted a modern, fluid building to reflect that Unitarian Universalism is what we refer to as a living tradition. This means that our faith is constantly evolving to the needs of the modern world. We believe that the building before you embodies these aspects of our faith, and I respectfully urge you to approve it. Thank you very much.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Ingrid Carlbom, that's C-A-R-L-B-O-M, like mother,
And address, please.
21 Oakley Avenue.
Okay.
So I've lived in 21 Oakley Avenue since 1995, and I may mention that that building was actually built in 1852. So it's actually older than the church we talk about today. I'm opposed to this project for the following reason. In planning this church building, they deliberately ignored City of Summit zoning regulations. These regulations are designed to maintain the attractiveness and safety of the neighborhood, and by extension, the desirability and the long-term value of the homes in the neighborhood. The current design of the church would compromise these objectives. Thank you.
Carl.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
And go ahead.
Name is Carl Carfy, C-A-R-F-I. I'm a client of Mr. Simons. I live at 1 Oakley Ave.
Thank you.
Here in Summit. I want to be clear at the outset. I'm not opposed to a new Beacon Church, nor to any new church being built in Summit. My concerns are about the scale of this proposal and the extent of the variances being requested in a residential district. Zoning regulations exist to protect the places where people live, to preserve privacy, safety, green space, and neighborhood character. Variances can be appropriate when limited and carefully considered. Here, however, the number and magnitude of the requested variances raise serious concerns about long-term impacts to our neighborhood. As you know, the lot itself does not meet the minimum size required for a church to be allowed as a conditional use on the site. Had the design respected the side and rear yard buffers by reconfiguring or reducing the building footprint, which could have also provided space for additional on-site parking, I would have a very different opinion of the project. The reduction of side yard buffers is especially troubling. These buffers are essential for privacy, noise control, and green space, and they help buildings sit comfortably within their surroundings. Once reduced, that loss is permanent. I recently heard a talk that asked a simple but important question: do buildings ruin a landscape? The speaker suggested that while we often assume development spoils nature, we sometimes forget that humans have the capacity to enhance landscapes when we build with care and restraint. We are part of nature, we live in it, we belong in it, and belonging carries responsibility. It means understanding that we do not dominate it. This proposal does not reflect that responsibility. I respectfully ask the board to carefully consider the impact of the requested variances. At a minimum, I urge you to require revisions that restore appropriate side yard buffers and bring the project into closer alignment with the established zoning standards. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your service to our community.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
I'm Reverend Julie Yarborough, Yarborough, Associate Pastor at Christ Church, 561 Springfield Avenue.
Thank you.
I've been the Associate Pastor at Christ Church in Summit for the past 30 years. At Christ Church, we believe that a thriving faith community is foundational to a healthy and compassionate Summit. In fact, every town needs healthy communities of faith to add to the texture and strength of civic life. For many years, since 1908, as we've heard tonight, Beacon has been a welcoming and supportive spiritual home. It has a long and important history in our town and has contributed much to the overall health and vibrancy of Summit. It is in that spirit that we at Christ Church offer our full support for Beacon Unitarian Universalist Congregation's plans to relocate. For decades, Beacon has been an important partner in promoting justice, service, and unity across our community. The growth of their ministry reflects both the good work they are doing and the needs that they are helping to meet. Like many houses of worship in Summit, Beacon seeks a space that will allow its congregation to gather fully and serve effectively, and they have outgrown the space that they now inhabit. And I'm not just talking about the number of people in their congregation, but the ministries that they provide to this town. Beacon's relocating represents the next chapter in its century-long commitment to faith, inclusion, and community life. Many local congregations operate with similar sanctuary sizes and parking arrangements. So I hope that you will allow this congregation to continue thriving here in Summit by approving their plans for their new location on Springfield Avenue. Thank you.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Kristen Connor, Conner. At the moment, I am
And
not-
address, please.
Oh, so I'm just trying to explain that a little bit here.
Okay.
I am not a current resident of Summit. However, my husband and I own a condo at 768 Springfield Avenue, Summit West, where we lived for 20 years, almost 20 years. My husband is a nearly lifelong resident of Summit up from 1974 till 2016 when we moved to a different town nearby. We are recent partakers, I don't know, we're not quite members yet, of Beacon, starting last summer. And in the meantime, we did look at a couple of other Unitarian Universalist churches. Sorry, I'm a little nervous and don't have anything written. So we went to Somerset Hills, which is in Somerville, which is in the middle of a residential area. They're in a church, but they don't have any green space. We also went to Morristown, which is a very nice location. Green spaces, large location, etc. And then we went to Montclair, which is beautiful church setting, downtown, but there's literally no parking because it's all taken in a Sunday. And each of these only have one service. So then we came to Summit. We lived in Summit. My husband grew up in Summit, and Summit was our home, as mine as well. And that's where we've decided to to go and stay. And even if we don't go, we listen in on the webcam. Now, I lived on Springfield Avenue, 768, and saw many changes within that time. We saw the Susan J. Komen house on the corner of Passaic and Springfield Avenue become 8 condos, which is a very tight area on a very busy corner, very dangerous with the train station right there. You have King's, and you have also other commercial areas right there. And granted, there are crosswalks, but that's still a very dangerous area for driving up and down. You have that blind corner, as well as 2 new homes that are on Springfield Avenue right next to where the new Beacon is proposed, which was on the site of a model train store. And, looking at some different places and the changes in architecture that have come throughout Summit in the 20 years, and even the amount of time that my husband has lived in the city of Summit, it's new. It's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit different to see every day. And, it's very nice to see, people loving their community. I really do love that. We don't have kids, so I can't say that we use the school system, but, knowing that we live in a city that prides itself in, advances in education, in entertainment, in community services. I go to the Connection at least 2 or 3 days a week, so I know parking situations is very, it's very much a consideration, and safety too. We lived on Springfield Avenue, and I did not walk necessarily on Springfield Avenue unless it was on the sidewalk. And there are no crosswalks. And even for people who want to go to the park, it's very dangerous. And just to get to town, if you want to take if you just want to walk anywhere, it's difficult. But I'm just saying that the Beacon has really become a home for us. We really enjoy our time spent there. We normally go at 11 o'clock service, but having one service I think is really great. We went to 9:30 the other day and saw different people that we had never seen before because we had only gone to the 11 o'clock service. And even that, we parked right on Springfield Avenue. There's no crosswalk from where we were unless you went down farther to Summit and Springfield Avenue. We would have to walk all the way down there, and or if you walked on Waldron, we got there a little bit late, just a little bit, no parking. And then when you come in summertime, when we had when there's the farmers market, there's a lot of people down there walking everywhere. So, I'm not saying that there aren't issues, and a lot of them seem to have been talked about, and people have come up with their own thoughts as well. But I really think that it would be a benefit to the neighborhood, and some of these things can be resolved. Thank you.
Can I just interrupt for 1 minute? I just wanted to interrupt for 1 minute because we do want to hear from everybody, but I'm wondering if we should take a break. I'm just wondering, can we just see a show of hands how many more people have comments? Because we do want to hear from you, but just trying to gauge. Should we take a break or no? Yeah, I think we'll take a 5-minute break. If you just remember your place in line, that'd be great.
60s and ancient claim.
So as everyone's getting back in their place in line, I just wanted to make one request because it is getting late in the evening, and that is we respect and appreciate everyone who is coming out to comment. If you could try to keep your comments to something that is maybe hasn't been stated several times before, so that if there's new information, that would be really helpful. Just trying to keep it moving here a little bit. But we do want to hear from everybody. Right. Thank you.
Go ahead. If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Norma Hauer. Last name is Hauer. And I live at 42 Oakley Avenue.
Go ahead.
So thank you for hearing me. Am I audible? I've attended multiple of the hearings on this matter, and my observation is that some of the challenges of the site plan can surely be overcome with community and church collaboration. For example, addition of crosswalks at Springfield Avenue, specific parking windows in the adjoining neighborhood to avoid excess traffic on local streets, and tweaks to the lighting and signage design. However, I request that the Summit Zoning Board not consider these types of accommodations without addressing the most basic challenge, the fact that the proposed buildings are simply too big for the property. The lot is not undersized. The development plan is oversized. The expansive and massive buildings are incompatible with the character and scale of the surrounding neighborhood, which is exactly what our zoning regulations are designed to prohibit in order to preserve and enhance Summit's character. I respectfully request that the Summit Zoning Board assure that the church's plan be revised to become harmonious with the surrounding area, reducing the overall site development and requiring actual adherence to the lot coverage, building height restrictions, and setback rules. Thank you very much. I appreciate the board's sincere consideration of my request.
Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Yeah, Court Jeske, Jeske, and I'm a resident at 32 Beekman Road. Thank you all for your time tonight. This is my fourth or fifth session that I've been to in the last plus year that this has been going on. There's been a lot of turnover, even on this council, in that 4 and 5 sessions that I've been to. And I'm also seeing a lot of new faces here this evening. Raise your hand if you've been to 4 or 5 sessions. A few. So we're at it and we're here at the precipice, but I think it's worth reminding ourselves how we got here. We got here, and this is not about a church doing good in Summit. This is not about a church adding to the fabric of community or being a place that we can raise our kids. I want the church there, and I don't even live close to it. But I have a fundamental issue with the way that they approach this and the way that they approach the process, which was they bought a lot that they then called undersized. It was the exact same size that they bought it at. As the previous speaker said, they want to build an oversized parcel, or they want to build an oversized structure there that doesn't fit in the neighborhood. They have every right and privilege as a congregation to build something within the rules or ask for a few variances. Instead, they ask for 40 and have talked about the concessions and good neighbors that they've been ever since. If I suggested to build a 15-story building in downtown Summit and came back and said, look at me, I'm only going to do 12, I'm a good partner, that's not partnership. That's not partnership. They bought this lot, they knew the rules, we welcome them, But I would encourage this body, some of you which have not been here the entire time and some have, to really think about how we arrived at this point and the decisions that were made, the guiding principles that you have, and the goals of the outcome to bring the church and welcome them to the neighborhood, but do so in a manner that follows a process and one that has a genuine outcome for all involved. That's all. Thank you.
If you can raise your right hand, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Tara Thompson, Thompson, and I currently live at 35 Beekman.
Thank you.
So I've lived in Summit for 20 plus years. I am raising my 6 children in that neighborhood. I previously lived on Oakley Avenue. 35 Beekman, for those of you who don't know, is literally right around the corner from 37 Oakley. My children took their Legos, put them in wagons, and moved them around the corner. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. We've done a lot of work with our neighbors. Neighbors are incredibly important, not just in our own neighborhood, but I hear this over and over in Summit. I also have been sitting in all of these meetings since they've started, minus maybe one. I have learned a lot about how this process goes, and I just would like to ask that you respectfully ask, sorry, I'm not saying this rightly, that you not approve the plan as it is set to go through at this point. I agree with my neighbors who have also come up and addressed the issues. It is not that we are not welcoming Beacon to our neighborhood. We have all been very happy to have a church move to our community more closely within our neighborhood. It again is the scope and the size of this project and the fact that so many of these variances really just don't fit as they should. And particularly, I do not like the idea of the carports, the solar panels in the neighborhood. I know Tom is not an expert, my neighbor from Oakley who did his AI drawings, but I do think it's something that hasn't been considered. We've had all sorts of, fantastic drawings done of the plans, but you don't see the actual impact of the neighborhood. Like I said, I've raised 6 children in this neighborhood. We know this neighborhood very intimately. All the pathways through the parks, all the side streets, the sidewalks, how to get around. My children bike through this area. We know and can see the shed. I can picture the shed. I've sat in that field watching many baseball games with my children and stuff. It's something that when the church talks about being neighborly, we just ask that they consider actually what the neighbors are saying about it. Again, we don't question Beacon. We welcome them to our community. We're very happy that the property has been bought and that people will now be using it, but we just ask that the board consider the scope and size and ask them to perhaps submit a different project that would work well with the neighbors that have lived, enough of us for a long time. We've settled in this neighborhood because we love this area of Summit. I also wanted to mention one thing. I noticed as I was driving down Springfield Avenue during all the snow-covered time, there is 0 parking on Springfield Avenue if there's any snow. Any of those side areas that you're talking about parking in are now covered in snow so that cars would not be able to park during those times. One other thing I would like to mention, while I lived on Oakley Avenue, I know some people have talked about the fact that the school is, during the weekday times and that it's not going to be an issue with parking or whatnot. For those of us who lived long enough on Oakley Avenue, we experienced the overflow of constant sports games at Wilson there, whether it be soccer or baseball or the camps that happen there. They happen on the weekend. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but there used to be able to park on both sides of Oakley Avenue. It was a nightmare to get in and out of those driveways. It was horrendous. It was dangerous for our children who were biking in that neighborhood to get through the street. You could not pass. Obviously, Springfield Avenue is a different kind of beast. You wouldn't have the one lane. Hopefully, people would be parking in the sides if they could. But it is a very busy, dangerous street. As I've said, I have 6 children. I have told them when they ride their bikes where they may and may not go because we live so close to Springfield Avenue. They go to crosswalks. They stay on sidewalks because we don't want them to get hit. I have teenage drivers who I warn about certain areas. I'm greatly concerned with the amount of parking that might happen. So coming off Oakley Avenue, heading down the hill on Springfield Avenue there, it is very hard sometimes to see if there are cars parked there. So if you're talking about increasing the number of cars parked there, it does affect the visibility, not just for people coming in and out of their driveways on Springfield Avenue, but also some of those side roads as well. It does become hard to see people going through. So again, I want to just state, as a neighbor, we are very happy to have Beacon have purchased that property. We certainly don't want them to move. We just ask that perhaps the plan be reconsidered. Thank you.
Hello? Oh,
If you could raise your right hand, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
My name is Jean Crichton, Chrischton, and I live at 173 Summit Avenue.
Thank you.
I've lived at 173 Summit Avenue for the past 30 years. Can't believe it. For about 25 of those years, I've been a member of Beacon's congregation, and I live a block from its current home on Waldron. I'm lucky to always walk, or almost always walk. To me, church means community, and Beacon has been a community to me. Both at the church, where people are talking to you, greeting me every day, and where we have 2 terrific ministers, but it's kind of like it's lay-led, because there's so many programs and committees that are run by lay people, and it's wonderful in that respect. And also, I've learned so much about Summit being there, because we've done so much with the other churches. We have worked within the community. One community that we have worked with is a Chancellor Avenue school, which is in Irvington, where we have a program there too, which is part of our community. Our community is wider than just plain Summit. And my big thing at Beacon has been the partnership program, where we have partner churches in Transylvania, Romania, and in Northeast India. And I've been to both these places, and we have delegations come here. The most recent was in October, and the first thing we do is take them on a walking tour of Summit. And we go to City Hall. We let them meet the mayor, and Mayor Fagan was so nice to meet with our people this time, and then take them to the Visual Arts Center, to the library, to the terrific things we have to offer, and in the summer to our Family Aquatic Center to have a nice evening. It's wonderful, and we are proud to show them what a welcoming, inviting community Summit is. I love our current church on Waldron. It's historic and beautiful, and our beloved sanctuary has exceptional acoustics, which we use in our afternoon music concert series. But the sanctuary is also small, with limited seating and visibility. We have been searching for a home that meets today's congregational needs better, and the new location at 695 Springfield is really a dream come true, a place where we can build a more comfortable worship space and have more room indoors and outdoors for church programs. I really like the new building's organic design. It's interesting, thoughtfully conceived, and environmentally friendly. It takes advantage of the natural beauty of the surrounding parkland, which we are supplementing with a variety of young trees and plantings. I've also been a master tree steward and learned a little about the different trees, including magnolias, which are going to be planted as part of the landscape design. Yes, the building is modern, but it's welcoming and certainly not extreme. It looks to the future and will add a unique touch to Summit's architectural landscape. Summit is a welcoming congregation that is open to everyone. I hope you'll approve our application.
If you raise your right hand, do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Carol Conger, Conger, and I live at 7 Primrose Place in Summit.
Thank you.
And I'm speaking to you as a longtime Summit resident and a longtime member of the Beacon congregation. I fully support the project as it better meets the needs of our multi-generational congregation. Before moving to Summit, I raised my children in the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Montclair, and I can't overstate what our involvement in these two congregations has meant to our family. Originally, as a single mom of 2 preschoolers, I counted on the church to be an anchor, keeping us connected through some stormy times. For example, after my kid's grandmother died suddenly, older members of the congregation embraced my children for years to come. And during her teen years, my daughter led the youth group, and now decades later, she's serving as a minister of religious education at a different congregation. And then when my son was in a horrible car accident, he leaned on the church to help him build a new life for himself. For our congregation to flourish, we need to be able to better serve those who come through the door. For the children, that means an outdoor space for them to run around. And also, their classrooms will no longer be stuck in the basement. So I've been talking about the past, but thinking about the future. Should the need arise, I'm relieved to know that there'll be handicap parking spaces available, as well as room in the sanctuary so that can comfortably fit a wheelchair. With on-site parking, I can remain an engaged member of the congregation rather than be forced to attend via YouTube like many of our older members do right now. The congregation means the world to me, so I hope you're able to give it the best chance to thrive in the future. Thank you.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Norman Miller, Miller.
And address, please.
I also live at 7 Primrose Place in Summit.
Thank you.
And I have lived in that address for the last 58 years. I've been an active member of Beacon congregation for that duration as well. And when I came to Summit in 1968 to work at Bell Labs, the church provided a welcoming entree into the life of Summit, both spiritually and socially. Many of the members were very active in the community through local nonprofit and political organizations. Over the years, I have benefited from the inspiring Sunday services, the wonderful music, and lasting friendships. And I've contributed by helping with building ground maintenance, music programs, and more recently with a facility expansion team. Our current facility at 4 Waldron Avenue have served us with some modification for over 100 years. While it is handsome from the outside and has a small but beautiful sanctuary, it no longer fits our needs. We would like a space where the whole congregation can gather, grounds for outdoor activities, up-to-date sound and video capabilities, and uniform accessibility in an environmentally friendly place. We would also like to stay in Summit, where we have been since 1908. Our development at 695 Springfield Avenue fulfills these needs and will be an asset to Summit as well as to our neighbors for the future. Thank you.
Do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Eric Solberg, Solberg.
and address, please.
I live at 46 Laurel Avenue.
Thank you.
Brayton Bobcats, go. I am a retired New Jersey principal with 38 years in public education. I have lived at 46 Laurel and Summit for the past 32 years, and my 3 children have been raised and schooled in the excellent schools of Summit Public Schools. I love Summit. I also love and am a member of Beacon. My church comes to you because our current building is over 100 years old and much too small for our congregation. We have a proud tradition of being in Summit and want to remain here. We, along with our architectural firm, have gone to great lengths to propose a beautiful building with attractive landscaping that will be an asset to Summit. For the past year, I've sat in these seats and watched the cross-examination of the professionals presenting the case for our new church building. I understand that there are legitimate questions that town officials and neighbors may have for our project, and we've tried very hard and extensively to provide detailed answers to all questions and to make changes as possible. The 2 core reasons that we are before the zoning board are for site plan variances and for parking. The zoning board's mission is to protect our town from allowing development that makes our adjoining buildings too close to each other. The location of the proposed building stands apart from other locations in such a way that there's no close housing structures that would be directly affected, as our zoning usually protects them from. Granting variances harms no one because people right next door are not there. It does not set any precedents that other proposed buildings could ask for, because we're in a very unique situation, as you know. The parking situations, when we say we're going to have 40-plus spaces, that's like heaven to us. We haven't had any parking in downtown Summit, and our congregants park on the street. As per the zoning board's earlier requests, we shrunk our original proposal for the building to provide more parking spaces. The site is large but limited, as you've mentioned. Adding a larger parking lot would make a less attractive site and provide little relief to cars still parking on the street. Since the unique location of our building already has ample parking available, the street is literally empty when we would need it. This should not be to the detriment of our proposal. I want to emphasize that this parking issue would only be insufficient on a regular basis for 3 hours on a Sunday morning. It's not going to conflict with so many other activities that you grant parking variances for. Apart from a funeral or a wedding, perhaps, all of our meetings all will be contained and housed by the 40-plus spaces that are the church. It's only those 2 services, or hopefully now 1 service, so it even collapsed that 3 hours a little bit more of parking on the street. It's not like a constant kind of thing that I want to emphasize. Also, as we are striving to build a carbon-neutral building, which is in line with our values to be non-polluting to the earth, the solar panels are needed to help us do that. And that's our wish to do that. It costs more money to do that, but we think that's in line with our values. It is my hope that the zoning board members will agree with me that the variances are of a minor nature to neighbors and to building precedents in Summit. We ask for your respect of our long history and commitment to Summit and our need to be in a larger space so that we can worship together. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else who wishes to comment before we close public comment? No?
So at this time, I'm sure you see we have 6 members here tonight. We do not have a full 7 members that we can afford a full vote to the applicants. So, Mr. Maynor, unless anything has changed, I imagine you're...
No, we would request a full board.
Okay. So the next available date that we will have, and this will be only for closing statements from the applicants, from the objectors' counsel first, closing statement from the applicants' counsel, and then deliberations and a vote from the board. We will not be considering any additional testimony at that time. The next date is April 6th. And that's still work. Okay. All right. And Mr. Maynor, you're waiving the time frame to act?
We are so waiving.
Thank you. So with that, do we have a motion to carry until April 6th without further notice?
So moved.
I'll second.
Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Curran,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli.
Yes.
So we will be carrying this to April 6th. And just for people who are exiting now, because this part has concluded, our board still has some work to do, so just please exit quietly so that we can continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Do it all.
All there. Okay.
So we have two resolutions for memorialization tonight. The first one is 45 Prospect Hill Avenue, zoning board application number ZB-25-2303. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Yuko, and Mr. Curran. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Curran.
Yes.
Up next, we have the vote for 19 Oxbow Lane, zoning board application number ZB-25-2282. The eligible voting members are Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Curran. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Curran.
Yes.
Then we have minutes for memorialization. Up first is November 3rd, 2025. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Curran, and Mr. Chanchuli. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Up next, we have the minutes from November 10th, 2025. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Chanchuli. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Up next, we have minutes from December 1st, 2025. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Chanchuli. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Up next are the minutes from December 8th, 2025. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Curran. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And lastly, we have the minutes from December 17th, 2025. This is the regular meeting minutes and the closed session meeting minutes. The eligible voting members are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Yuko, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Chanchuli. Could we get a motion?
So moved. Oh,
Sorry.
over there. Go ahead.
I was
Second?
sleeping over here for a while.
Could we get a second as well?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's it for me. Thank you.
Wow.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Adjourned.